Hello, chess friends. This is International Master Valeri Lilov, and welcome to today's training on YouTube. Yeah, today we're going to be talking about crushing the queen's pawn openings, and yes, I have some really cool stuff for you guys. So please bear with me because I've got some really cool ideas to show you. See, again, like the queen's pawn openings. What is a queen's pawn opening? Now, like queen's pawn openings basically go and they start when pretty much white goes with the move of pawn to d4. I mean, it's kind of clear to see what this, what the opening is all about. It's like white is trying to stay with a quiet position and just go like that. So what do we have to do about that? Okay, there are different ways on how we could fight the queen's pawn opening. Now, just really different ways. But I've got some really cool stuff for you so you could see some some really great variations and ideas on attacking or countering the queen's pawn opening. Now, I don't want to start like last time I did a lecture on the Sicilian, and I began with some really complex stuff on, like theory and everything. So today I'm going to go a bit differently, all right? I'm going to go with showing you, this is actually going to be cool, I'm going to begin by showing you a game, or some games that are just incredibly interesting in terms of seeing different patterns and how they work. So we're going to start with the game that was played between Georgiev and Rogers in the Interzonal Tournament 1993, which I think was a fantastic game to talk about. So let's have a look. Now, Grandmaster Ian Rogers was actually playing as black in this game. And so after d4, knight f6, white played c4, then black played c5. Now, this is basically a good lineup for development. The main goal of black is obviously to counter the pawn on d4, and then he enters into what we call the Benoni. So after c5, white does d5, and then black goes with the Benko with pawn to b5, c6 to the b, and then there's e6 to a6 to keep everything in line. So okay, after the move of a6, okay, white played with e3, and then black just did the move of g6. So things are looking good here. Now, what is this opening about? Now, remember that if you want to crush the queen's pawn opening, you need to play aggressively. This line is positionally aggressive. Positionally aggressive is often the best for black to play versus first d4. And what it means is the black is going to get a very fast and easy development for each of his pieces. And then eventually he will relate on the possibilities or the resources on the king side. So like that, the queen side. This is the main goal. So like exchange these couple pawns and shoot against the a2 and b2. Of course, with the castling and bishop g7, it would look even better. So let's see. After the move of pawn to g6, white did knight c3, bishop g7, and he adds a little more protection to the queen side with a4. So now black simply castles, and then white did the move of rook a3. Now I want you guys to think about what you'd like to do. Let's imagine you don't know the theory of this thing. What would you want to do, and how would you like to get a strong and really good preparation and command with your pieces? What's the best way to go? So like, this is very interesting. While you're actually thinking about that, while you're trying to figure out what will be the best move and all, I like to recommend you to take a look at the bundle. Like it's a really incredible bundle. I think it's like a 5-part bundle that has some of the best lectures on like Bogo-Indian, Nimzo-Indian, Slav, Stonewall, and some others. I'm going to show you quite a few of these, but I'd like you to check this out. It has some fantastic opening repertoire for black against first d4, and it's 50% off. So I do recommend you guys to check it out. It's beautiful, and it's at a very good price. So check it out when you get a chance to. Now, let's talk in any way about what black is supposed to be doing, or what is black supposed to go for right now. Take a second, think about that. So I have to admit that, you see, like looking at the bishop on the g7 and how everything is put in place, I love black. I really love the sequence. And okay, so what do we do in this position? How do we go forward here? I want you to guys take a moment, think about it. Now, hey, Valerie, are you going to give a repertoire for black? Well, that's the title of the lecture, so you can just keep that in mind. We'll definitely give that. So, sure. All right. So, in any case, what would you like to do in this type of position? What's the best shot? What are we going to be doing in this moment? Is it 50 or 60% off that bundle? It's 60. I just read it. You know, I'm not so good at remembering that. But, you know, in any case, it's pretty good, which is actually why I'm making this video, because like this, well, this lecture. So anyway, what black has to do is develop. I mean, while you're thinking about this, remember, development is more important than the rest. So you see, what we need to do is d6, yeah, queen a5, queen h4, those are good moves. But, you know, these seem more like an attack out there. So I have to admit that the better move is to play with bishop to the b7. And this is fantastic. This is like a really good way to go forward. After we have that type of a move, then in fact, after continuing with this type of a move, we got the challenge against d5. We can think about e6. And you see, this is what I like to call the first thing, the first element for success in any of the queen's pawn openings. You need to prepare yourself and make sure that you get a good activity. When you get a good piece activity, things can really start in a brilliant way. And take a look at that. After bishop to the b7, white played knight f3 at this point. And now black plays with e6, which is fantastic. D takes d6 and f takes d6. And I want you to think about this position. White is a pawn up, okay? He's a pawn up. But really doesn't matter, because while white's extra pawn is b2, that seems completely insignificant at this point, every single one of the black pieces are ready for the center. You can think about d5, knight d7, queen e7, maybe even a move like rook e8 or rook d8. So all the pawns and more or less all these good pieces are going to be lined up and towards the center. Now about white, when it comes down to white, he doesn't have that much of activity, and that turns out to be a problem. So after that, white saw the danger, and he realized, okay, queen d6 will likely be a better move. So of course, black defends. He cannot allow this pawn to be taken. And then after that defense, white played bishop e2. Okay, so he's just playing very normally. So what do we do now? And obviously, we have a little bit of a problem with the development. Let's not forget that. Black has a bit to worry. He's got some of his pieces kind of behind. What do you have in mind in this position as black? Take a second. Think about it. Yep. Now, somebody says this is the guy who accuses people of cheating without proof. Well, I don't know whether you're talking about me or someone else, but certainly he doesn't have to do anything with the lecture. And keep in mind, anybody who I said may be cheating did get caught. So that's important to be mentioned. Now, knight e8. All right, knight e8, in fact, isn't such a good idea because white can play queen e7 and queen h4. I don't recommend that. What I think is important is that we get to play with the move 8x to the b in this type of position. This is a very strong move. After we play 8x to the b, we're opening up the possible square for on c6 with the knight. And more importantly, after that exchange, check this out. In case white takes, let's say, bishop takes to the b5, black was going to drive away the white queen, and we see now there's this f3 that would get taken directly in front of the white king's defense. So, like, in case he plays knight x to the b5 at this point, which looks like the other move, I guess we can play a move like knight e4 to drive away his queen, and this is going to be pretty powerful. So that just doesn't look so good. So what white did was 8x to the b. And then, okay, after the move of pawn x to the b and then 8x to the b, black did knight e8, queen d2, and then there's d5. And what we've got out there are like 3 pawns, 2 bishops, a fantastic sequence with those two knights to go up, and then eventually we can have moves like knight b6 to c4, or maybe even knight, the other knight can go up, and that's pretty good, I have to say that. So step by step, we're actually setting up the pieces together. Now d5. It's too late for white. Well, I don't know, maybe. I have to say, though, that black got the two things that are most important. Very strong activity and good control, good command. So let's do it. Pawn up to the d5. Then white plays rook takes a8, bishop takes to a8, short castles, knight bd7. And then the moment we did that, in case of b3, black played knight e to f6. So that's actually amazing. White played the move of bishop to b2 here. So what do we do next? I mean, okay, one of you asked, so like if queen e7, bishop f6 would have trapped the queen earlier? Yeah, definitely. I mean, he would have. So that's why white actually played like that. But in a way, he needed to go back. He needed to get really passive. And I think this is what counts. So what do we do next? Now, I want you to check very carefully this position, because for the most part, the majority of white's pieces are backward. They're not so good. They're behind. They're passive. So what do we get to do next? Now, while you're thinking about this position, I want you to remember the following. The key concept in such a position is to control the center. Like, you need to control the center. You need to get the possibility to command more space and have more value for your pieces. I know that it's not going to be easy, but I want you to think about that. How is it possible to do this now? Why not 8x to the b? Well, I mean, we did that already. I mean, like 8x to the b just helped white to control some space, but it didn't help him. Now black, it's black's turn. I'd like to play d4. Yeah, but you see, d4 is a bit of a committal move. While I certainly don't mind it as a move candidate, I think it's okay to do it. The problem of this move, so to speak, is that as we go that way, it's going to be a very committal type of move. And you see, I just don't think that it would fit. See, it's important that you don't go for such type of moves unless you're absolutely sure or you're absolutely certain. Unfortunately, right now, this move just doesn't lead to anything. He'll just take, and there's no follow-up. There is no continuation at this point. So he'll just take the pawn, and you'd feel really good about that. So that's bad. We can't do that. Something else. What else would you recommend? e5 weakens the d5. True. But actually, I think that it's important that we do the e5 because that actually exercises some more control in the middle. We can go for a move of pawn up to the e4. We can get that knight up to the e5. We can control 3 out of the 4 squares in the middle, which is actually going to be beautiful. And that's how we are getting to like start in this position. Step by step, gradually, it's going to be very powerful out there. So like after continuing with e5, see, the key is to keep a good formation. If you have a good pawn structure, this can help you a lot later, no matter what opening. Black will end up with hanging pawns. Not really. So hanging pawns are 2 that are isolated. Now black has 3, and they're not really isolated. They're supporting each other, and white can't really attack them. So that was actually very, very good. And so black just keeps growing. He keeps improving his position and making it even better. You know, that's great. So let's see. After that last move, things look pretty excellent, I have to admit, as it goes. And let's see. I mean, e5 was the move. White did knight a4, hoping to probably challenge. Now, what do you want to do here? Let's just see. I mean, I want you to think very carefully about this. Shall we do a move of pawn up to the e4, or shall we do another move? Now, think about that. It's a pretty important decision. You can take my word for it. But the real query is, what do we do now? Move the pawn, move the queen, or probably try a different candidate. What would you suggest? Now, while you're thinking about that, yeah, I think pawn moves are too early. Yes, you're right. But I need you to concretize a little bit more. So, white is trying to attack on the center? Absolutely. And you know, something interesting about these positions is that you don't want to rush. Rushing is a bit bad. Like if you rush things, then it could backfire. And it's just, you don't want to ever go for anything that's too rushed or too quick. There is plenty of good moves in this moment that will help us to keep everything together. And there is absolutely no reason for us to rush at any point. Now, what do you need? Maintain your center. In fact, this is a very valuable idea in this case. What you want to do is to keep your center, to keep the strength, and then you'll figure out how that works from there. So what we're doing is we're actually going ahead with the move like queen to the b8, queen to the c2. Knight e4 was terrific. And as this move was played, now we can understand how black is commanding the whole middle. Even the tactical opportunities are not that big. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, if I'm supposed to crush the opponent's opening, am I not supposed to just, really like attack him very fiercely and do the damage? And the answer to that question is really not really. It's just with black you can only get that much. And one of the most important qualities is control the middle. So that is beautiful. When black got this incredible and really strong control in the center, he knew he was in the right run because the center is great, the activity is good, and that can help him to further transform. So white makes that exchange. Of course, black has to trade. White takes back. And let's see if anybody could give me the right strategic suggestion in this moment. Now, one of you asked, you mentioned that this is a Benoni, but didn't it become a Benko? And either of these two is listed in the DVD bundle, looking at it in a different browser. Okay, now, first of all, keep in mind that this is a game that doesn't have to do with an opening that's within the bundle. Like, I'm going to give you this example as a very strong game in terms of how you defeat the queen's pawn openings, like what strategic concepts you have to point or keep in mind in top of your mind. Now, after that game, I'm going to show you some exact games from the DVDs, or like from the from what they cover. Obviously, they covered somewhat different openings out there in terms of like variations and lines, but yeah. So what do we do right now? What opening do you recommend against d4? There are so many. Now, then this next game that I'm going to show is a fantastic example on what you can do. But this one right here is too good also. What do we do? Let's go with d4. We can have the possibility of playing d4. We get the breakthrough, and we have the light square bishop open, as well as the center and the command, and it's beautiful. Let's do it. d4. See, so far what we see is that black has more or less every single piece open and lined up. Yes, he's material down. Yes, he doesn't have threats, but the control is his. So white plays bishop a3. He doesn't want to give so much control. So what do we do now? Do we have any possibility to continue? Now, I want you to think about this very carefully. And I would like to mention one more thing again. You see, I believe that this bundle that you can take a look at is not so much about theory. It has a lot of strategic ideas, okay? And while I'm not showing a game from that bundle right now, I want to tell you that if you take a look at it, it has a lot of positional principles. It's not like a 100% opening bundle, like with lectures of just about opening theory. Like a lot of typical positions, a lot of principles, like the control of the center, making your pieces better, making it, like more of a controlling place. Yeah, I'll show you the next one, so you'll see exactly what I mean. But then again, this game illustrates very well the possibilities you can get as black when you're playing and you want to defeat the queen's pawn opening. That's why I picked that game up. Anyway, let's talk a bit about it. So what do you think black should do? Bishop e5, totally. It's totally right. Two bishops, a great queen, and the power building up on the king's side. So this is exactly what we're doing. We have a great possibility to attack him, and then we have the shot against the opponent. Now, of course, if white tries to attempt and be active a little bit, maybe with a move of knight to the c5, what we do is bishop takes h2, and there's going to be rook f5. And it's kind of amazing because what we realize at this point is that, like black, I mean, there is this variation with which black can make a perpetual if he wants to, but I'm pretty sure there are even stronger ways to go. So this is just probably what white should have done, in my opinion. Knight to the c5, which he played, just missed the mark. And now, what do we do with black? You've got in the center, like more pieces in the middle than your opponent. You've got in the space. Everything just looks so good. So what exactly do you think black should do or continue at this point? Just take a moment and think about it carefully. Strong space, good command, and more pieces. I think this is good. We just have to figure out a way to do it, to continue it and finish it in the right way. Anyone? I encourage you to think carefully. How about bishop takes today g2 though? Or bishop takes h? I think you're on the right track. So many pieces lined up against the white king cannot let him escape that easily. So what I think is that we need to get going. So what black did was bishop takes h2, and then after king h1, bishop takes g2. And this was incredible because with those two pawns falling, the white whole king's defense is going to fall too, and there is no way on how he could really defend or go anywhere. So it's beautiful. What happens? Why resign? But why? I mean, why didn't he just take back with the king? What's wrong with that? I mean, black's queen is far away. The bishop alone can't do much unless we get this move going. After king takes that, there is a direct checkmate. Obviously, he'd like to take with the rook, but then there's another check and a checkmate. And so after rook takes f2, if the king goes back, the most pretty move follows, and that's queen a8. And so that's actually the checkmate. Now, I know that in the end, it actually turned out a little too convenient, but it was all because of the whole process of really turning all these pieces in line with the attack. And now what I want to tell you, because this is remember, this game is pure strategy. It didn't have to do with necessarily a specific opening or theory. It has to do with the concepts you need to remember to be successful in the opening. Audio disappeared for a few seconds. I'd like to know. Can you confirm if the sound is working right now? I just want to know. Is it good? Is it working? Is it there? Didn't from mine. Okay, that's a little concerning. Can you confirm if the audio is working? Okay, it's working. Thank you. Okay, so let me wrap it up. Make a short summary. So that's fine. First off, what did black want to do? Space. If you want to be successful with the major opening, remember that you need space. Getting more space is absolutely important, the most important thing. So get the space, and that will help. What black did in this case was to castle, get the two bishops, the knight, and second, center. A lot of people underestimate the value of the center, but I have to tell you that, in fact, this is very important. The center you can control by getting more pieces there or by challenging the ones of your opponent. Whatever is the case, you have got to do it. And I mean, you've got to do it fast and straightforward before it's too late. So it's kind of important that I mention that. And you see, this is something you have to keep on top of your mind whenever you can. Rule number 1, control the space. So. And then this rule number 2, fight for the center. So then what white tried was queen to the d6. Now, the other thing that black did, in my opinion, is he avoided having any structural weaknesses. What is a structural weakness? This is what a lot of people don't pay attention when they're playing openings. Structural weakness is a specific weakness that happens to be a double pawn or a losing material or something like that, and then getting problems in the longer term. Well, what black did was to drive away the white queen. First, he stabilized the position with queen c8. He drove it away, and he made sure he can maintain this really pretty position with the bishops, the knights, and the excellent pawns walking forward. You see, it's not like white. If we're talking about a winning repertoire or great openings for white, it's just about one thing. Sacrifice a pawn, take over the initiative, attack, destroy. That's pretty much it. So I'd love to show you that, but this is a topic for another lecture. I showed gambits last time, and that was pretty much it. But as black, you remember you're starting second, so you can't quite have this destruction value that you can expect by playing as white. So in a lot of occasions, what you need to do is make sure you're able to build up a good position and rely on the positional features that will eventually transform into something tactical. Black really knew that helping his pieces to coordinate, and that's the third point actually, to help your pieces coordinate is what helps to have a successful or a most successful opening. It gave him all these possibilities and the brilliant, charming combination that wins in the end. But it's a very valuable combination that works brilliant in the end. So I do hope that you like this one. Now, just to keep in mind, this was a strategic game. It had to do with the openings, with the concepts you have to keep in the opening. But now I'd like to show you another one. You see, one of the lectures I think from the bundle includes the so-called Stonewall. Now I have to say that Stonewall is my lovely system actually to talk about, because it's like an opening I've been using for a long time now, and it's it's one of these systems that I just know how good it can be and how strong they can be. So I just love playing the Stonewall at any day. For this, one of the things about Stonewall excuse me, is that it gives incredible stability. It's very easy to learn. And from one of the DVDs in the bottle that you can get for the amazing 60% discount from the link right below the video, you're really going to get an incredible value for your openings, for your repertoire. So check this out. In the meantime, while you're doing that, I'm going to show you something really cool. Are you ready? Well, I'm going to bring it now, so just give me 1 second. I'll be setting it up in a moment. Okay, so hold on. Okay, so I have to just load up the game. Okay, so first let me clear the board here. Now, by the way, if anybody wants me to send him a PGN of this game with the games and everything that we talked about today, just feel free to send me an email. I'm just gonna bring up the email because a lot of people, okay, since that's what, okay, basically a lot of people have told me about BGNs. They wanted to see those openings and they wanted to see my analysis and work on it further. So you can feel free to send me an email to my email, and then yes, with the PGN, I'll be very glad to send it to you and give you give you the game so you can follow it through. Now just give me 1 more second because I'm having a technological thing here. I need to bring it up. Okay, hold on for a second. This next game is pretty awesome, actually, so just wait on for a second until I get it. Okay, there we go. Okay. All right. So this next game, I have some sort of a problem with my chess base, I think, where I'm actually trying to load up the game. I'm sorry about this, guys. I'm not sure what's going on with my computer. Okay. Ah, come on. Sorry about that. Take a time out. 1 second. I don't know what's going on. I'm just trying to shut down everything here. Okay, so now this is going to be interesting. I think I remember the game. I cannot open it in my database for whatever weird reason, but that's okay because I'd like to show you anyway. So this was played by Vasily Semi-Slav, I think, and it was one of the excellent excellent games that shows the power of the Stonewall and how brilliantly it works. I think you're going to love it just as much as I did. It has some incredible value within itself, so let's talk about that. So Semi-Slav was actually playing with black in this game, and his opponent was someone named Boris Vladimirov, and was played in 1961, I believe. So let's have a look at that. D4, F5. Now, there's G3, Knight F6. And that's basically what the Dutch is all about. The Dutch is about a quick development of the pieces and making sure we have the center control. Now, it's not just about that. I think that one of the keys that makes it different in comparison to other openings is the F5 pawn, that in one way really cuts off white's pieces by controlling the E4 square. So what we got here is Knight F6 to be played next, Bishop G2, E6, Knight F3, Bishop E7, short castles, C4, and D5. And now what we have is the so-called Stonewall. What I like about this structure, here's what I like. What I like about it is the easy development. And the other thing is that it's quite unorthodox. So it's not just about the fact that black is developing very easily, but also he's able to get this incredibly awesome development. And now black even played Knight C6. So you may be thinking that this is weird, but check this out. Within the next few moves, black gets such an incredible, amazing piece activity that it's almost unbelievably strong how fast he gets a winning position. C takes D, E takes D, Knight C3, Bishop E8, and now that bishop is actually going to H5. So you see, black is following that first rule that I mentioned earlier, which is basically let's get to have some strong and more active pieces. So that is a good thinking. Now what white did was to play with the move of bishop to the G5. So what do we do next? What's the right way to go? Think about that. White's doing very good. He has a nice development. He's ultimately turning his forces onto more advanced positions. But I think it's valuable to consider that black has to play careful. And yes, what would you like to do as black in this type of position? Now, can't play, okay, in some variations, yes, and some variations, true, but not just in some. I think that in most of the lines, it's an incredibly active opening, and it can give the one thing that takes out white's first move advantage. Super good activity. SGI. Super good activity. That's a way to remember it. So what do you do with black here? Take a second and think about it. Now, what are you thinking? Yes, I wanted to say to you, centralize. See, the center is amazing because the moment we do it this way, not only that we're getting that a brilliant, I'd say, like really, really good piece activity, but you could just see how cool this is. The knight is going forward. We have the extra space. We got the brilliant piece activity, and this is going to get even worse for white. So knight e4, let's go for that. This is amazing. Now, with the knight coming down, white did the move of bishop takes d7, and then there was knight takes to the e7. Now, you're going to say, Valerie, there are no threats here. Come on, this is boring. Well, you see, there is time before the threats really take place. Like a lot of times before the actual threats, you need quite a bit of improvement, centralization, making sure your pieces get better. I mean, generally speaking, you need to get ready. And it just doesn't work in any other way. With this, black definitely made sure he gets ready. The knight's coming now to the g6 with the idea to exchange whites. And then when you exchange it, of course, white didn't want to give it away. At least he wanted to have a passed pawn. Now black plays bishop h5. So you see the same element that we looked at and we witnessed in the previous game. Black gets a very strong structure that allows him to have good activity. Forget about all these openings that don't give you activity. As black, you're already at a disadvantage from the beginning. So you need a position that simply gives you what you need in terms of control and space and opportunities. Now, so black actually got that right now. And he's planning to get even more as it goes along. Let's see what happened, what went on next. As this move went on and black played bishop to the h5, I think the position was excellent. And let me see what white did. So white did queen d3. Okay, what do you want to do next? Now keep in mind, you can get an incredible lecture pack on Stonewall and a few other openings that are very popular and very strong for 60% off by clicking just at the link beneath the broadcast video. So you'll see the 60% off link. If you get it, there's I think it's about 5 parts with some amazing lectures by top grandmasters, which pretty much give you a more than solid and great repertoire, opening repertoire for black against the queen's pawn openings. It's a really an amazing deal, guys. So check this out. And in the meantime, going back to the game, I would wonder if anyone has a suggestion. Eternal Night? Not really, but it's a good night. There's no arguing about that. So anyone, I'd like to hear if anybody has a good recommendation on what is black supposed to do. What do you think? Grandmaster Perlstein's video on Stonewall is good. He's one of our popular. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, he's an incredible lecturer. I have seen his lectures like on the site and other sites as well. He's really brilliant, especially at explaining openings. So yes, definitely. So c6, of course. Stonewall requires you guys to play the c6 because then you get this 3-pawn formation. 3 kind of formations out there: b7 defending, c6 defending, d5, solidifying the center and keeping it together. That's it. So remember, playing black is not like playing white. This means black starts second, and as he starts second, you got to be ready that you're not going to have the ability to crush white, not in the way as you think. So oftentimes it takes quite a bit of preparation and an effort to get this going. With the c6, however, we've taken this in the right way, as black is able to support to protect his middle, stop white from being able to reach out the b5 and other squares, and it looks good. Oh yeah. Let's go. What did white do? I mean, queen c6, e3. And now just a simple queen e7 to develop. Bishop h3, queen g5. There's no need to hurry. Remember, it's about what your opponent does. Like right now, he doesn't have anything threatening. When he does, like b5, we stop it. And we keep building. Is it more positional? Kind of. I mean, any opening as black is more positional at first because you have to fight back due to the tempo that you have lost because you start second. However, the good thing is that black has much of a possibility to do it. And now I'd like to talk why. Do you know what's the super secret thing that gives you an advantage as black versus most of the queen's pawn openings? It's the pawn skeleton. Let me explain it in a simpler way. Every opening for both white and black provides the opportunity of a skeleton. Skeleton means the way you put your pawns in comparison to where the pieces are going to go, and generally how you make that opening formation that either makes it good or bad for you. Now, what's so important about it is that when you get the right skeleton, it almost feels like you're very successful. If you don't, then you're going to suffer for most of the time. So my suggestion to you is when you're given the opportunity, when you're given the chance or the possibility, make sure you can get the skeleton in terms of like strong center, open position, and the ability to provide your pieces with these advanced squares that are most necessary. And that was so beautifully done by black in this case. He just has this fantastic skeleton. So even if something goes wrong, he knows he has the support, the backup. And that is, in my opinion, quite necessary. So let's do it. What happened after that move, like queen e7? Well, white did not feel too good about that, having that knight on e4, so he decided to exchange it and then play queen c3. And at this point, black simply does bishop f3. And wow, this is so cool. Now the bishop is cutting off the white squares. The black queen stands like a pawn there. The rooks are disconnected, and the king side looks weak. So this is very important about that. So like this looks great. So let's see what happened in this position. Of course, after we continue with this, we can have the h5, queen to the g5, maybe even a rook takes f, and this is kind of beautiful to follow up in this position. And yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. What do we do next? I mean, having a bishop on f3 is great. So what do you think? Should we exchange the queens now? Think of this. Black is in no rush. I agree. But do we exchange the queens? It's a more specific question. So think about it. Do you want to trade or you don't want to trade? That is the question. To do or not to do? Anyone? I like queen g7. I like it too. Keeping the queen on a very useful position. We can have g5 come down. White's queen is kind of useless on its own. And yes, black can keep his potential going. And I love that. I really do. So things look good. So let's get the queen around and let's keep it together. So the queen went down to the square and black's attacking. Let's keep the queen. Sure. G7, queen d6, and g5. You're probably a little disappointed that I'm showing you games which go so slow motion. But the truth is, you can't just make it fast, okay? Like we're talking about, I mean, okay, I could have shown you some game in which you have a brilliant queens and 2 rook sacrifice, which we're checkmating. But think about it. How often you're going to get a game in which you can do a queen and 2 rook sacrifices? You see, that just doesn't happen. In the first game, we saw a bishop sacrifice and another one, like the rook, that helped out black to win. But oftentimes, even that doesn't get to happen in games. It just let's be realistic. Out of the opening, this is the best that you can get. Solid, strong position with more control in a good middle game, or even a good end game as it happens right now. Well, the fact is, White tried to give a check. King h8. He did bishop to the g. Now, he could have kept the queen around, but I don't think that he really wanted it, because in the end of the day, what the hell is white queen doing? It's advanced, but then again, it doesn't do anything. Black can play g4, queen h6, and so many attacking possibilities. So white thought, okay, you know what? Let's just get rid of that queen. Like, you trade it, and then I'm going to be okay. But now the end game is terrible. I'm going to show you quickly the end game, because that doesn't match the lecture today. But still, it's going to be interesting for you to see how awful the white pawn structure was out of the opening. And with this, I don't want to advertise like the Stonewall is the absolutely flawless openings. There is no flawless opening ever for white, neither for white nor for black. Any opening could be good or bad, depending on how well you know it. And even though that may sound like a cliched statement, it is true. It is basically on how well you know it. So black just knew it better, and he had a better opening structure. So that's how he became successful. A little check doesn't really do much because b7 wouldn't do any harm here. And okay, so like just basically black can run with the kings anywhere. I think in the end, so like actually, I mean, I think black made a bit of a mistake here. Let me see. I'm not sure this is how the game went. As I told you, I made it by memory, so something happened here. But what I wanted to tell you anyway is that, you see, just I can remember it only that far. So either way, well, after the exchange and this, I think that black has a much better endgame with that bishop and the pawn and everything. So, like, the thing about this is you have to remember 3 things out of this game. Number 1, Stonewall is about commanding the d5 square and controlling e4, which you can occupy. Number 2, make sure that no matter what goes, you get this skeleton. This means the combination of pieces and pawns that can help out. Don't expect miracles. They wouldn't happen. Just keep it up. And more importantly, stay consistent. Like, I think that even now, black was very consistent by having his position very active and strong. So that's basically it. All right, so in any case, what I want to do is I'd like to show you something else, guys. Like, I suppose you were thinking now I'm going to be just showing opening theory, like opening games. Not really. I want to show you a little bit of theory too. I just kept that for the end because it was more interesting to go through the games first. What I like to point out are a few really good, cool lines that you can play as black. First, let's go with the Slav. The Slav is the opening that I think is very interesting. It's an intriguing opening, and it can give you this. If you're looking for an easy-to-follow repertoire for the Slav, check out the link below the video. It offers 60% off from the incredible bundle with different opening repertoires for Slav, Stonewall, the Bogo, and Nimzo, and some others that are pretty cool, I think. So just take a look at those. I really, really encourage you to check them out. They're great. They're a great price, and it can give you the most solid opening repertoire you've ever had as black. So check it out. In any case, let me show you my own ideas on how things are working. So, like, take a look at this. After knight c3, knight f6. Now, see, what I'm going to do right now, I'm not going to show you what I know because, honestly, I hate opening theory. I want to be 100% straight with you. I hate openings. I don't find them cool to study. I don't think that they're great to work with because they're boring. But you know what I love about openings? I love when a master has to explain me stuff. Like, I get to be more excited because I don't focus on this boring, you know, opening different monograph type of theory. Like, the white goes here, black goes here, white goes here, black goes here, white goes here, blah, blah, blah. I hate that stuff. I can't remember any of this afterwards. And I suppose most of you have actually experienced that. But when a master has to explain to me the variation in like a plan and where the pieces go and why they go there, it's just so cool, you know? It's just, I love it. And for this reason, I'm going to show you now some lines that I picked up from the great Grandmaster lectures, okay? And this will just show you how much you can learn on your own by checking out that bundle that I mentioned to you. Like, it's 60% off, and keep that in mind. It has just the right amount of theory and tools to build up a strong repertoire against the queen pawn openings. Now, I know somebody is going to say, okay, but Valer, this is just about the queen pawn openings. What about all openings? Well, let me give you one personal advice. You can't be prepared against everything at once. You got to start somewhere. Given that most of the human population who plays chess starts with queen pawn opening first d4, I think it's a pretty good start. And I'm pretty sure that we'll have a webinar where I'm going to be telling you stuff on how to hit the e4. So start with d4 first. Now, here are some really cool lines for you to check out when you're playing. So let's start with the Slav, for instance. When we go with the kind of Slav, white can play knight f3. And now I know what you're thinking right now. Okay, so Valerie, this looks passive, and I thought that you're against the passive openings. Kind of I am, but I kind of am not as well at the same time. Well, first of all, I really love the variation in which black can play now e6. Now this is the kind of variation that I find very instructive, and then you could understand that after e6, in case white plays with e3, for example, I'm saying black can do bishop to the d6. Now, remember the main goal of each opening. Like, what the main goal of the opening is that basically we get the control of certain square, certain place, or we have a specific goal. Now, that is very valuable. If white plays like that or something of similar kind, essentially black could get ready to go with short castles, knight d7, and then we get the exchange. Now, this is basically what I learned. The main goal of this is that black gets to play e5, and while for the most part, he's staying behind and being backward with, as black, in this line, black is able to open up most of his pieces and actually get a very comfortable position. Now, surely white can fight against that, and that actually is what makes the game very interesting. But it's a pretty interesting battle. In some of the Grandmaster Crit's lectures from the DVD bundle, he's recommending also the system of a6, which is one of my favorites. And the point being, at least what I learned from his videos, is that when black plays like this, then he's able to get this very easy pawn structure that commands a lot of space. And should white choose not to do this and he plays b3, he starts defending. So that could give black so many resources to be successful. Now, that's something really cool. So I recommend you guys to check it out. This is really good. I think Grandmaster Crit's lectures are like quite a few. I think he has about like few hours of explaining how the different things work, but it's beautiful because he's a grandmaster over 2600, and he gives all the things, all the little details that you need to know about that opening. Now, check it out. Now, my favorite opening of all is the Nimzo. Let me show you how you can play it. The Nimzo-Indian works like d4 knight f6, and then when white plays c4 e6. The plan being is that when white just plays the normal knight c3 variation, then what we could do is to play bishop b4, and our intention is to double the pawns. Now, the idea is super simple. Like what we do here with the bishop b4 is we're ready to a challenge against c3. And so if white tries queen c2, for example, to simply protect or try to defend the c3 as easily as that. Next move, of course, there's got to be an important move. What I love myself personally is the idea of just castling. And then in case you place, say, okay, e4 does not work because of d5. We're going to open up the position and white's king is in the middle. So likely you'd have to drive away this bishop. Now, what's so great about this is that we can get the chance. Now, what chance are we talking about? We're getting the chance to play along with knight e4 and f5. See, this is similar to the Stonewall, but the idea is different. Being able to maintain that knight simply provides black with a very simple setup. And now we see that even in this case, though we haven't doubled the white pawns, there is still far more compensation for the absence of bishop pair. And that is a great stuff. I really love that variation. I really like the idea. Now, something else that I was able to learn to pick up from the lecture of Grandmaster Lemos and Will Stewart, there was a lecture about the queen c2 line that I think was pretty cool. And basically what they were explaining is what to do when white tries to be more naggy with a move of bishop to g5. And what was so good about it is that they explained how that bishop is going to be missing its important value. So we have the opportunity to play c5, and then after e3, in a simple exchange, what black can do is go knight c6. Okay, now this is actually pretty interesting. And whatever white does, okay, so let's say knight c6 or maybe even b6. I think it was b6 if I can remember correctly. You see, sometimes I also get to forget the move order, but it doesn't matter because I know that the main plan being is that we're able to on the very next moves, once black plays the bishop and the knight, what the good masters were explaining was that basically black is able to push that pawn here. Now the point being, and now remember, when you are learning openings, just focus on that. What's the main goal? The main goal is that if we get to exchange the d7 pawn for c4, like that, okay, let's say a3, like say bishop e7, knight f3 here, and then d5. As a result of that, white is going to get a very weak pawn island that we're just going to pile up over our pieces. See, there are very different deviations, but what these two good masters did not really focus on were just the variations. They focused on typical responses that people get to play and how that major goal of black really suits what he can achieve. So it's a pretty cool video. I recommend you checking it out. Like this, they have also some other videos, like about, for instance, one of the things that I found particularly interesting was the Rubinstein variation. There is this lecture about the Rubinstein. What happens if white tries to be tricky by playing e3 and then basically going for knight e2? So sometimes that's a line that people play. And what they were explaining is that black can now make an incredibly cool maneuver. The thing is, he can go with the move of rook to the e8, and then when white plays a3, the bishop comes back. It looks really ugly. So the first time when I was like, okay, I don't know about that. I didn't feel so convinced. But then I realized that everything that black is looking for is to get this very passive but incredibly strong pawn structure. The point behind it is to make a bit of a chain against the white bishop, and then very gradually develop his pieces in a perfect manner, like the a5 pawn coming forward, the knight going up. And then I realized that once the black knight has the opportunity to come towards the c7 to e6, maybe he can also prepare the other one before that to go to e4, so black can have f5. And one of the biggest strengths of black's position is that even though his pieces are backward, they control most of the important values. So in case white tries f3, we can have just enough pieces to back it up, keeping most of white's pieces backward. You see, that's the one thing why I recommend this bundle, because it has so many strategic ideas. It's like strategy helps because people deviate. I got to tell you the truth. People deviate. So if you just rely on studying long variations, they wouldn't go with that. So what I recommend you to do is look into the strategic type of concept. That's why I didn't even start today with a game that was within the openings from the bundle. I started with a game that I wanted to show you what strategy means. And then you can see how by keeping the idea of what goal black is supposed to follow, what is the structure, okay, what are the major concepts that make an opening versus first d4 successful, it just makes it so much easier to learn that information and remember it and memorize. Because if you know the plan, like, okay, I'm supposed to get my knight to the e6, the other one goes to e4, I fight against e4. It doesn't matter if white plays bullshit like h3, king h1, or he plays the correct line with rook c1. It doesn't matter because you follow your plan no matter what. And that's what's really cool, okay? Check it out. So Nimzo is cool. Yes, definitely. You know, and so, yeah, you can, by the way, check out the link below. It's like 60% off the excellent bundle on a repertoire, crushing the queen's pawn openings. And yeah, I want to show you something more. I mean, you see, somebody just asked me recently, okay, but Valerie, what about the, like, if white doesn't actually do that, for instance, what if he gets to play, or what if they get to play a different type of variation? For instance, some people do get to play the Catalan. And I was like, oh man, Catalan is so bad. And honestly, I don't know what to do. It's just so difficult. And so actually after c4, e6, there's g3. And I was like, okay, we can't play b6 to go with the queen Scythian. We can't, white's contending to follow up in case we do d5. It's very, very nasty. And in one of the videos from the bundle, they actually provide, Grandmaster Lemos and Wolstert provide an interesting sequence that just resolves all the problems. It's actually such a simple thing. You know, that's what I like about simplicity. What black can do now is to play bishop b4 check to help himself speed up the development. I'm going to give you a short summary. I mean, it's a lot more detailed in terms of explanation, but I'm going to just bring up my own interpretation of what I was able to learn. If white plays bishop d2, we get a beautiful exchange. And in case white takes back with the knight, black has this one idea, and this is to play d6. And generally speaking, within the next couple moves, he would love to play e5. Now, if the position closes, as you can see, the dark square bishop is out. So this is really going to favor black in terms of a pawn's formation. And if white doesn't do it, in case of knight f3, what we get to have is a super simple variation. I mean, like, okay, knight f3, we can have, let's say, knight at the c6 to drive him away. In case of the exchange, there is an opening. And then black gets the super good position. He has a good development. He has a strong control. I mean, this is a 9-move sequence. You don't even need to remember it. All you need to know, all I needed to know was that I'm supposed to put my bishop here so I can speed up my castling, look for d6, e5, and knight c6. I mean, how cool is that? It saves you hours and hours of studying meaningless variations from the book. That's why I never really recommend studying openings from a book, unless you actually want to just widen your knowledge in terms of like specific lines and whatever. It just, studying a master video and an example of like what it's about, it just helps so much. Now, there's a lot more details within the Grandmaster Lemos' lecture. He shows every single response on what white is supposed to do and how black can counter that. But it's super easy because they show it from a practical perspective. And yeah, I mean, I was able to learn a lot from it. And keep in mind, I'm like, it's a line that I think will work for anyone. You know, as a master, it was great for me to see it, and as a beginner, it also works great because the strategic concepts are so well explained. So check it out, and I hope that you liked my suggestions on strategic principles and openings and repertoire as to how you can crush the queen's pawn openings. If there is anything else, just let me know on the chat. I'll be glad to answer any questions or so. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So check out this like bundle, 60% off. Again, it's a great one for your repertoire. And in the meantime, if you have any questions or if you want me to send you a PG with the analysis that I made today or so, just send me an email to valeri.lilov@gmail.com, or you can even check my site and just send me directly a message through it. I have a live chat as well there, so you can just send me whatever you want. So I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have for the bundle or for the lecture today, or some of the lines or some of the games, just whatever you have, feel free to send me, and I'll be glad to help out as always. Thank you so much, guys, and I look forward to talking to you soon.